episode of Tall Drums. On Thursday, October 23rd, 2008, the historic U.S. institution, Morehouse College, located in Atlanta, Georgia, played host to the former Senate President of Nigeria, Senator Dr. Nnamani. Senator Nnamani had gone to Morehouse College to deliver a public lecture at the college's Center for Leadership Development and to establish a collaborative relationship between Morehouse College and the nnamani Center for Leadership and Development in Abuja. In this special episode of Tall Drums, we bring you a report about Senator Nnamani's encounters at Morehouse College. Upon his arrival, Senator Nnamani was welcomed to Morehouse by the Executive Director of the Leadership Development Center, Dr. Walter Fluker. A leading scholar in the development of leadership theories and teaching, Dr. Fluker said he was glad to welcome the Nigerian visitor on campus and looked forward to meetings with Senator Nnamani and his team.
Indeed.
Yes. Mr. President, I wanted to let you know his itinerary today. He's actually lectured in one of our classes, and we've had lunch and some time together, and he's scheduled for a 4 o'clock public lecture down in the Executive Conference Center.
Okay.
And I've apologized already to him profusely and maybe too much for the fact that he's in the context of homecoming week and he has a lot of competition.
Yes.
He has no idea how much competition.
Indeed.
But I did have a brief conversation with him, as you know, also with Ambassador Jeter, regarding some conversation around ways in which we might work together.
Mm-hmm.
And Ambassador Jeter will be in on tomorrow. And he, of course, he's trying to find time. But we've been able to confirm that?
We will do that.
Okay, good. And I wanted the senator to maybe chat with you a little bit about some of the work he's doing at his leadership center.
Senator Nnamani's first major port of call at Morehouse was in Professor Melvina King's Foundation of Leadership class. About 35 students had gathered in the class to hear Nnamani's experience in a leadership position in Nigeria.
Of recent, I had the privilege of serving in my country. There's 3 arms of government you already know: the legislative arm, the judiciary, and of course the executive branch. The legislature is the most democratic of all arms of government. I believe it is the same thing here in the United States, because our constitution in Nigeria is almost identical, almost, not quite the same as your own constitution. But there are so many common denominators in most democratic institutions, and that is having a legislative arm. The judiciary is constant, and then of course the executive is constant also. What is not always constant, especially in developing countries like my own, is the legislature. Why is it not constant? Because at times we have military intervention, what you call military takeover. Unelected individuals find their way at the helm of affairs. The first casualty in such a case is usually the legislature. Because if you hear that the military has taken over in a certain country, what has happened there is that the military has suspended the constitution. And with the National Assembly being the bridge between the democratic governance and autocratic government, National Assembly is always the victim. So I had the privilege of being the chairman of Nigerian National Assembly, because by our constitution, if you are the Senate President, you are the number 3 in order of public protocol.
Following his remarks, the students asked Nnamani several questions and shared with him their own understandings of the concept of leadership.
Gary McCreer, freshman sociology major. I have two questions. The first question, it's really bad. You said that the National Assembly was something that was a victim in Nigeria, and you said that you were the chairman of the National Assembly. I wanted to know, how did you deal with the pressure of dealing with something that's very, I guess, attacked, you could say. It's a very sensitive field. I wanted to know how you dealt with that. And then second, you asked us about our definition of leadership. And I wanted to know what your personal definition of leadership was, and when did you feel it became implemented in your life?
Can I take your own question so I can answer the two?
I just want to know, how would you define intellectual leadership from a senator standpoint?
Okay, I'll start from the last one and then I'll come to that one. I think honesty, intellectual honesty, if somebody who professes a certain field of discipline comes to it with a great level of honesty and originality, being original, not just copying. The thinker coming up with some ideas that is really brand and original to the individual. That will help a lot. And that your question has two parts. One had to do with what did I do about what? The first one you put.
The National Assembly?
Yes.
I was wondering, you said that it was a victim in Nigeria, and then you were the chairman. How did you deal with that? How did you feel?
Now, in that one, I make sure that there's that concept of delegation of authority. Even though I know I'm the chairman, but I didn't want to do everything by myself. One of the major areas that created problem was the area of contract awarding, something to do with money. I made sure that I did not participate in any contract meeting. I distanced myself from that. I had what people call the civil servants handle the issue of contract, so that I can exercise some oversight over them. I did not try to do it myself. Because if I had gone to do it myself, chances are that I may be committed in one way or the other, or I might show some favoritism to one of the contractors. Because one of my predecessors in office got caught in that manner of issue of contract awarding. They said he awarded contracts to some people and it was overpriced and so on.
After the session, the students gathered for a photo with Senator Ken Nnamani. Perhaps the most important aspect of the trip to Morehouse College for the Ken Nnamani Center was the meeting held with Dr. Robert Franklin, president of Morehouse College. Recently hired to lead this historic institution, that is the alma mater for such leaders as the late civil rights leader and Nobel laureate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and movie maker Spike Lee, Dr. Franklin shared some history of the college and spoke highly of his guest as they explored ways both institutions could collaborate.
Thank you. So you're our greatest African nation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dr. King has touched not just the lives of Americans, but the whole world.
Yes, yes.
And the freedom fight he started is going on everywhere.
Yes, yes,
that's what we are benefiting from now.
Indeed.
Everybody. And the foresight.
Appreciate that. Africa and African Americans have always worked together to make this world a better place, and now this is our opportunity to do more. I hear you thinking about exchanges and student exchange, perhaps even faculty exchange. Maybe at the appropriate time, it's something that I would like to come and visit, and perhaps to have a meeting and to express the appreciation of the college for the work you've done. You've been a courageous leader. We follow some of the news, and Jeter, he keeps us informed. But we admire you, Senator, so it's a great privilege for me today to be in your presence. Have you visited?
Yeah, I've been to Nigeria.
University?
I
Yes.
have not met the senator.
Okay.
But I was in Abuja and Lagos.
Senator Nnamani, who is the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the nnamani Center, also talked about the center and its mission.
While I was in the office as Senate President, I noticed a gap in the political space in the country. This area of leadership, especially ethical leadership, is totally lacking in our place, and we have no institution whatsoever where any person can go to and get a little bit of insight what it's all about. People may be talking about other aspects of leadership positions, but things that deal with morality, even in business, because a lot of business people have realized that unless there's ethics in business, you really cannot, even the checks that we sign, people
Not trustworthy.
can't believe in it. So we set up a center, Leadership and Development Center, and to show the importance of it, 5 former heads of state in Nigeria were in attendance. It's on our website there.
Outstanding.
And we had the former president of Ghana, Miles Sanders, visited here.
Yes, that's right.
Because Morehouse College has become a mecca for those who go on pilgrimage.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Rollins gave the keynote address.
Yes.
And one of your old boys, former ambassador to Nigeria, Howard Jetta, who incidentally is a member of our advisory council,
Oh, good.
and himself also is a member.
Okay, yes.
He was present. He gave a speech on the occasion. And we figured that apart from what he told us about his alma mater, we did our own independent research and found out that Morehouse College is really reputed for work in this leadership area, particularly the ethical revolution that is beginning to catch up. I think it's an expanding area. Not many institutions, even in the US here, is offering any course. And you can imagine our fate in the African continent. I'm not aware of institutions offering courses in this, except of course the annual event, the annual retreat you normally have in South Africa. Other than that, nobody has taken it so seriously to talk about leadership.
Yes, yes.
And that we believe that it makes so difference.
There's so many aspects of it. One area that the senator has sort of highlighted is the possibilities in the area of sort of having an exchange program. Where you have students from Morehouse who have become spend a semester. There's students in Nigerian universities that can come here. Or exchange programs of more of the institutional variety. Whether it be we had an event just recently where we had about 5 or 6 vice chancellors. We call them vice chancellors in Nigeria, presidents of universities that attended the nnamani leadership.
So that much interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Franklin and Senator Nnamani exchanged autographed copies of the books each had written. Following the meeting with President Franklin, Senator Dr. Nnamani delivered a public lecture as part of the Leadership Development Center's long-running public lecture series.
As many of you know, Morehouse College is engaged in a process of internationalization, and we've made it our primary aim at the Leadership Center to identify distinguished guests who represent the very best in ethical leadership in their own countries and globally.
In his lecture titled Change, Leadership and Challenges of African American Engagement in the 21st Century Africa, Nnamani spoke of the changes in governance taking place on the African continent, from the legacy of dictators to a fertile ground for democratic and accountable leadership.
Skepticism is gradually giving way for optimism. All black-loving people are beginning to endorse the new spirit of engagement, which is indeed an extension of Marcus Garvey's philosophy, albeit in a non-physical sense. The new information age, what we call information and communication technology, ICT, has
as an integral part of globalization, it now makes it possible and relatively easy to engage with one another, even if we are 10,000 miles apart. African people and their leaders are now investing very heavily in democracy and the rule of law as fundamentals of society that can create wealth and uphold dignity and liberty of citizens. Most African countries are learning to treat their citizens with dignity, to provide space for dissent and deliberation, so that creativity and innovation can be unleashed on the continent. If the last century is an Asian century, the next century, if we work hard, can be African. But this is not an easy task. Africa will need a helping hand from the US to claim the next century. Democracy and economic reform lead the way to African renaissance. In the last 2 decades, Africa has witnessed a resurgence of democracy and seemingly good governance. Since the 1990s, a wave of democratization has swept across the continent. Many lifelong dictators have been dethroned. In their places, new democratic governments are springing forth. Some old democracies have begun to flourish. Africa is no longer the dictator's era, even in Zimbabwe, that last stronghold of authoritarian politics in Africa. We see how the irrepressible spirit of democracy is turning the table against President Mugabe and unleashing a force of transformation. Zimbabwe is a conclusive evidence that Africa is inextricably caught up with the wave of democratic growth in the world.
Senator nnamani challenged African Americans to take their rightful place in helping Africa manage and consolidate these changes.
Greater collaborations, which we might like to call engagement, between U.S. excellent public and private institutions of learning, like your own here, Morehouse College, and African institutions, will lead to knowledge transfer and quick diffusion of transformative leadership principles, technological and science innovations to Africa. This morning, during our discussion, an interactive class I attended, one of the students raised the issue of what is it that we expect. How do we define leadership? I raised the point and I said, the definition of the concept of leadership is controversial so far because it's still an expanding, a growing discipline. It's not like a traditional discipline such as sociology or biology or any other already established discipline. This is a growing area. That the definition is as many as there are many researchers in the field. But it is agreed that an institution like yours, Morehouse College, is probably leading the way in the specific field of leadership that is not quite common in other institutions, which we call ethical leadership, morality. Again, you have morality in politics, morality in business. We need the United States to get more involved in Africa so that at least that can force the Chinese to respect human rights and environmental standards in the business in Africa. Africa needs greater attention from the United States. Africa needs American goodwill, for which we are known, finances and intelligence to get firmly on our feet. Needless to say that much of this will come from the African American community in the United States. already we are beginning to see more business and scholastic interventions in African American activities.
During the question and answer session, the U.S. elections and the campaigns for the presidency that was going on at the time came up.
How do you feel about the current election between Barack Obama and McCain? And how does it affect your country?
It's affecting all countries. All countries are watching. I was in London last week. Everywhere I went, the whole world is focused on what you are doing here. You are in a defining moment of your history. People would like to see what you have been saying, what you have been preaching, whether actually that you apply it, integrity, talking about ethical leadership, ethics in politics, ethics in business. We want to see whether America will stand firmly and obey the rules and follow up. You say that there's no more discrimination. Fine, we want to see it. People are watching. Yeah. You know. Then you talk about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We talked about the Jefferson. This is a time to demonstrate it. We want to see it.
After the lecture, Tall Drums had a moment with Senator Ken Nnamani.
Your Excellency, you flew over 10,000 miles from Nigeria to come to Morehouse College.
Yes.
You presented or served as a guest speaker in the Foundations of Leadership course earlier today, and a few minutes ago you gave over an hour public lecture to the students at Morehouse. What are your impressions of Morehouse for the past 24 hours that you've been on campus?
Well, you see, the greatness of the institution is marked by the caliber of people who have passed through this very citadel of learning. When we went over to the front of this place, you noticed what we call
the statue?
The statue of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., a great thinker and a great liberator who has touched the lives of so many people, not only in America, but all over the world. You look at the people who have passed through here. I looked at their Hall of Fame. It tells you that the institution is not measured by just the size, but the people that have been able to, the institution have been able to nurture growth, the contribution to humanity. So I feel highly impressed. And given the quality of people who have come to deliver this type of lecture before me, people like Warren Buffett, I think I feel greatly honored. And as I said in my speech, it's a kind of honor that remains only a dream to so many people. Right. So I'm pleased that I had the singular honor of delivering the lecture here in Morehouse College, the leadership center that is renowned for developing new ideas and leadership theories here in the United States. So it's a thing of joy for me and for the center.
In your public lecture, you continue to show the same courage that many in Nigeria have come to identify with you in terms of speaking the truth as you see it. After having left office as Senate President and you continue to show that courage, what informs your commitment and your consistency in talking about some of the flaws in our nation and in asking us to do better?
Well, you see, when we talk about ethical leadership, the ability for one to remain firm, because what is constant is truth. I think what will save our country and put us on the path of growth is our ability to remain firm and do the right things and follow the rules and not try in any shape or form, regardless of who is involved, trying to bend the rules or to give some people a kind of preferential treatment. why I'm saying I'm doing what I'm doing is because at my age, I have a family, and I would like them to be known as people coming from a place where people show elements of integrity and not try to be manipulative to achieve a short-term gain. So it's, I think name, as we are told, good name is better than silver and gold, and therefore if we can help to sustain our country by making our own little contribution in showing some element of leadership in that new area of integrity or ethical revolution, we can bring about that type of change. And that is what we call transformative, a change where people follow the rule, do not try to cheat any person, tell the truth. That's what integrity is all about. So.
Now, the goals you set for yourself on this trip that is coming to Mars, are you confident that you have met those goals?
I'm already exceeding even my expectation. Today, this afternoon, I had a meeting with the president of the college, and I am impressed with his enthusiasm to work with the nnamani Center for Leadership and Development in Nigeria. And such act of enthusiasm and partnership being advocated by us and being accepted. And in fact, it has even gone beyond the things I expected. That they have gone further by saying that they would like us to arrange for opportunities for exchange programs and leadership trainings, mentoring, emerging leaders, and that comes under the exchange program I'm talking about. I think it's a great opportunity for us and for the country.
That's our show for this week. I'm Uboji, reporting from the historic Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. Until next week, I wish you peace, liberty, and justice. May you become all that you're destined to be.